FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Let's pick up on that leadership question. What can the federal government do in the short term and the long term? What kind of stimulus package might be able to make a difference in this environment?
Well, when Congress voted a stimulus package probably 6 months ago now, I got roundly criticized for saying that it was like buying an alcoholic a drink. Sending a check to everybody so they could buy a Chinese-made flat screen for their TV isn't exactly a ways to generate jobs here. What we want to do is get people to work and get them to work in something where there's a long-term payback for society. Infrastructure. I'm lucky enough to be working with Governor Ed Rendell from Pennsylvania and Arnold Schwarzenegger from California. Who would have thought that the Terminator calls me his soulmate? But anyways. It's amazing when he sits next to me. He's like this. People are confusing me and Brad Pitt all the time, but not with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But we're working on infrastructure, trying to get the federal government to focus on infrastructure. And if you go back, Thomas Jefferson focused on canals. And you can laugh about that, but it was the canals that opened the Midwest, because you could move goods and services. I built these canals. And then Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to get us out of the Depression, created the WPA and a number of other organizations like that. And we built municipal buildings, we built schools, we built LaGuardia Airport that I flew out of today. We really did build the infrastructure that carried our country for decades. And then Dwight Eisenhower came along and he got Congress to build the interstate highway system. He did it under the guise of we need it for defense, because remember, this was after the Korean War, and if we had to move our troops from one place to another, if somebody invaded the homeland, we needed the roads to do it. But the truth of the matter is, it was the impetus for this country's growth for a couple of more decades. Now, unfortunately, we've changed the whole process. There's no overriding leadership. There's no grand vision. What we are doing is we are building infrastructure, but we're building bridges to nowhere. And the decision as to what we build is a function of who happens to run the appropriation committee and not what the country needs. And you can come up, there's certainly things that we need to do. You cannot be competitive in this day and age if you don't have good service from downtown to the airport. You can't be competitive in this day and age if you don't have good airports without big delays. Both of those are very big problems for this country. You can't be successful today if you don't have well-educated kids. We're not putting money into public education, which is the most important thing. Half of society's problems would go away, and the other half would be cut dramatically if you could have better public education. There's a whole bunch of these things. Yes, you haven't been picketed by the teachers' union, so it's easy for you. But you can have a strategy, and you can create jobs, and you can get a return for the money. That's the kind of stimulus we need. Some of those projects do take a long term to get going, but there's enough projects that I think you really could put people to work and make the kind of investments you need and stimulate the economy. The downside of that, of course, is that everybody doesn't get a share. And the Founding Fathers, many years ago, before you and I, Jack, were born, believe it or not, they don't believe that, but we know that, the Founding Fathers gave every state 2 votes in the Senate. So when we do something, everybody's got a share in it. And that's not necessarily in the country's interest, but politically it is something you just have to learn to live with.
Sure.